So friends, the kind of people I'm going to speak today are not the people who have come to the show. They have been dragged into the show. They are the first founder that I've met in the startup industry who do not want limelight. And so we had to literally drag them. And here they are, Arun Krishnamurthy and Chandresh Sharma. To start off, first question, why are you guys so shy of camera? Why don't you come in front of the camera? Why is this your first shoot? Some idea, some thoughts on that.
See,
See?
we keep doing this. You go.
Demonstrated.
I
Please,
think
Chandra, yeah, please.
we want to work to speak. I think inherently we have this quality of or bad quality to lie low, but the results has to speak. So it's just that our nature. It's not something which we intend to do.
Which is very unique because in the startup space, everyone wants limelight, whether they have something or they don't.
Correct. Even in our customer space also, wherever we are, they have this marketing kind of, so whenever we are implementing something, right, they would have a marketing approach to it.
Right.
In our case, it is more that, okay, yes, is it making sense to your organization? Something like that. So it's
Wonderful.
always being, basic persona is always like that.
Wonderful. I think that's the ethos that you build, in your personality as well as in your organization, and that kind of flows across. So let's start with your journey. How did you guys really think of, what happened in your life that prompted you to, okay, let's do this? What was your kind of, journey into this?
So before starting this particular thing, we have been very closely associated with shared service implementations on the finance side of it, which also kept us close to the CFO community.
Let me just interject here. What I understand, both of you are from non-finance background.
Correct.
And are you working 24/7 with the finance guys? Again, more about that.
That's precisely where it comes from. So we've been more on the tech automation side during our employment journey, but that journey kept us close to the CFO, kept us close to the finance community who have been processing these transactions, and they love data. Yeah. So from that perspective, that's where we thought that, okay, why not we have a different outlook to this entire thing, and why not we have a single platform which can address to all these questions.
Okay.
I remember when we went to one of the events in the US, an entrepreneur actually said, be precise, not strive for perfection, precision over perfection. Mm-hmm. It kind of, stuck to us. And when we were brainstorming about the product, something we always wanted to do is, we want to make something very meaningful, as Chandra said, but also to be very precise and not go for, everything to be very perfect.
Correct.
So how do you kind of, in the real world, how would you say you define yourself that, okay, this is how we did it, while typically someone would do it this way? How did you decide, okay, let's be very, have this precision in building this product and not really just do it for the sake of it?
So as I told, it's from the voice of the customer, right? So when we were doing a lot of automation, we understood that there's a big, untapped market in terms of what the CFOs really require. See, CFOs are, very precise in nature, right? They have numbers, they know, they want to do something very meaningful in terms of automation. They don't want gimmicks or fancy stuff. So we understood that, and that kind of drove us saying that, look, it's better to build a product which is, which really solves a purpose. And how we went about it is also not we thinking about something and building it. We were very close to these, the buyers, if I might call the CFOs and the decision makers. And piece by piece, when we went, we got instant feedback. We monetized it instantly. So we have been bootstrapped in the beginning for 4 years, and we built this product, through internal accruals.
Excellent. So when did the journey start? So when was it that you kind of thought of it, or kind of got your team rolling? Which year it started?
So we started in 2018, again precisely in the month of March. That's when we operationalized. But to be very frank, in terms of nimble S2P, productizing it, the overall solution. So one is, okay, solution design that happened during 2018 to 2020, but converting that into a product framework where something is repeatable, SaaS, converting that into a SaaS personality, that happened in 2021.
Okay.
So, and that kind of coincided with government initiatives also, where e-invoicing was launched in GST. So I think so that entire thing fall in place. And one thing from a SaaS perspective, what we have seen as a startup when we talk about, people say that, okay, I'm at an ideation stage, I'm at a product development stage, right? We kind of, surpassed that kind of approach. We said that, okay, if something is at an ideation stage and at a deliverable stage, let's, offer it. Let us make it work piece by piece, and then, make a complete bouquet of, overall solution. So that's when Nimble is to be formed.
So you said that your main target segment is the CFOs. Do you target a certain segment of companies, or it's more generic in nature?
Primarily
or maybe the sector that you target?
Primary manufacturing, somebody who is of scale 200 crores and above. And we have certain, we can cater to all the manufacturing, but if I may call it sweet spots, iron and steel, chemical, infrastructure, real estate, retail. These are some of the sectors where we have successfully implemented our solutions.
Okay. Because this segment that you're talking about in India has suddenly picked up in the last 8 to 10 years, right? And you rightly said GST is an additional boost to the entire process that you are getting into. Okay. Did you have competition when you entered the field? And why I'm asking you this, because when you were saying the segment that you are targeting, the competition would have already reached them if it existed.
Correct.
How did you navigate that process? How did you navigate that time of building up your organization?
So anything which has a lot of potential will have competition, right? That's the first thing to do, right? If there is no competition, which means that there's probably something wrong, right? And for every SaaS, or for that matter any enterprise software solutions, there has to be a new player, something to be changed every 10 years, right? And if you look at it, there are many players, but why we entered is because we have an experience of implementing various other product solutions. So we know what is the real capability and what is the real ask, right? So we feel that from a competition perspective, if I want to really divide it, there are international players who don't understand the way the compliances as well as the localization needs to be done. And then there is a set of startups who are trying to do what we are trying to do. But from a capability perspective, there's a large gap. So, there is competition. It's good for us because we need somebody to also educate along with us.
True. How do you look at the role of these new agents, AI? They're kind of coming into SaaS as a field. A lot of people are talking about SaaS is dead and so on and so forth. How do you think you as an organization will adapt to these new things, and how do you think it will impact overall as an industry, the SaaS industry?
See, if you say SaaS is dead, maybe the use cases are different.
Sure.
I don't, personally buy in this particular point, but SaaS is evolving. The entire personality of SaaS is being changing. You will see SaaS now have more integratability or more inclusivity inside the organization rather than working in silos. So if you say SaaS in silos is going dead, I may agree to that. But SaaS in which are integrated in your organization cannot be dead. But at the same time, SaaS needs a persona where it keeps evolving. There needs to be adaptability. You said AI, you said ML, right? All these kind of things adds to that particular thing where, can this, your offering in the market, evolve over a period of time or adapt to the business requirement. That's,
basically these are enablers. I mean, you have different enablers coming up in different parts, right? So before SaaS, everybody is talking about on-premise, right? And nobody believed that your data can be hosted in a cloud, right? Today, everybody says, everything is on cloud, right? So it comes, people have a resistance, then they, accept that particular enabler, which is a new enabler, which could be little anti-convention, right?
True.
So similarly, AI agents or any other, deep tech technologies, as Chandresh said, he would have used this word called use case. That's very important because that derives the purpose for the organization and the impact which you provide, right? So these enablers are there, but from an service provider or a solution provider, beyond this, some parts of your character of the product also defines it. It is not just about the product itself, right? For example, we need to be upright and straightforward with the customer, right? Just because you have technology, you can't say yes to everything.
True.
Right.
True.
So there are places where you have to say no. This is not supposed to be done, or cannot be done, right? So that also brings in a certain level of I would say responsibility into the service provider as well.
True. In fact, with the tech industry, this is what I've observed, that every time something new comes in, they kind of literally start writing out, okay, the rest, whatever existed is now dead. And every time we see that nothing dies, a lot of reinvention that happens. Most of these things actually become tools to enable or move forward.
Correct.
But again, every time we have those news channels or the YouTubers kind of screaming and shouting, okay, now this is dead, now this is dead, and like coders are dead. I'm sure that some things will change.
Correct.
But I mean, death is too much to kind of.
I think in reality, an enterprise will have 5, 6, 7 same kind of softwares running.
Correct.
That is the reality.
Correct. So they would have a different group companies, and each business unit is working on a different tech stack. So from that perspective, we see that.
So the opportunity, in fact,
opportunity is huge.
I mean, the way I will put it is a simple data migration takes 5 years.
Yes.
Right? That is a reality. And you say that something is going to change tomorrow. I think we all know. I mean, it's for the news. It's good. I mean, change is always good. But there is always something called a transformation.
Yeah.
Right? You can get a good product and implement it badly.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And you can get an ordinary product and implement it fantastically well.
True.
So it's the transformation which matters. You keep adding on, you keep improving, and that's what the enterprises are looking at. And it's not a surgery as such.
Yeah. In fact, one fact also remains that no industry or no segment is doing everything at the same time. Right? You will always have some organizations who have moved up the chain by adopting the latest technology. Some are still in the journey, and so on and so forth. Some have done good work, like you rightly said. Some might just fail in execution, right? So I think this inefficiency will always remain, which keeps the opportunity going, and that's how the business keeps going. And someone like you, who is in this journey, in the thick of the action, will take a learning out of whatever is happening with their clients.
Correct.
And keep on improving their own products. I think this is something which one all has to, we have to understand this, because else writing, okay, this is dead, is fancy, but makes no sense.
And evolution also comes from basically knowing your customer, where they are making mistakes. So if your product or solution is being in use, you need to be aware that, okay, what kind of mistakes users are doing and how you evolve from a product standpoint. So
Absolutely.
that is something very important. So feedback loop is, you need to be on top of.
So Arun, you mentioned that you say no to your customers, or you moderate their expectations. In the environment where you can't, startups say that we can't say no to our clients, we can't say no to our investors, and we have heard a lot of stories. We can't say no to our employees. How did you manage to do this?
I think we don't want to say no. That's the first reason. We also want to pick it as business. But sometimes, as the product stands for, we are also upright and straightforward. It's always better to get into a relationship with the right expectation setting. Right. I'll give you an example. We had a customer who called us, the entire team in the conference room, and he illustrated the entire requirements. And after some time we came back and said, look, this is not what we really will do, and it will take a lot of customization, and probably it will lose what other product is standing for. So we had to say no. Initially he was taken little aback, but the good part is after around 8 months he called us back, and we implemented a solution as what we had actually built in for. So sometimes saying no is a very good thing, because that's what really brings the merit into play.
I think that builds trust also, because you are not just saying yes because you are
Correct. But no with, by saying that, okay, I won't recommend that as a neutral consultant. I don't want to sell my product, right?
Right.
I mean, that's obviously why I'm here.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if I can have a consulting approach to that this particular thing is best done by this application, I think so that makes more sense.
Right. So I think it's the merit that you're talking
Merit
about.
and be clear that, okay, this feature is done by X application. I sit on top of that, complementing it. I don't want to overlap. I don't want to become X. I'm, positioning is very clear.
Absolutely wonderful. I also understand that you people work with the biggest of the conglomerates in India.
Yes.
Why would they require Nimble? It's a startup. Why would they require Nimble? I mean, what is it that you bring on table?
The basic from Nimble S2P perspective, we are talking about connect, automate, and maximize. We see a lot of applications B2B, B2C, B2G, right? If you look at Nimble S2P, I think so CFOs and all these conglomerates are liking the approach where we are saying B2G to B.
Okay.
Okay, which means supplier connected with government and government connected with business. That's where Nimble S2P, has a very firm stand to it. And when they see that particular capability in a particular product, they love it.
Yeah, I think the balance of compliance and efficiency,
Yes.
right? So
Okay.
you can't have something built for only efficiency, cost control, etc. You need to make sure compliances is also been
Yes.
taken care.
Yes. Yes.
And the other important thing is the philosophy, right? There are a lot of products which is built for the users and the user pay for it, right? The internal users, if I may say. We made Nimble with the suppliers in mind. So basically, the entire idea of Nimble is to make the supplier's life better, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the enterprise takes the onus out of it. Right?
Okay. Can
So-
you elaborate on this?
So basically, the enterprises are subscribing for Nimble, but it is making their suppliers' life easy, right?
Okay.
It's if you really think maybe 5 or 10 years before, a lot of companies would say that I don't want to pay the suppliers on time, right?
Yeah.
There are organizations today in India which has KPIs for the accounts payable guy to make sure he pays the supplier on time. So things have
Okay.
changed, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And when we were in the market,
And
at
this
the
is
beginning-
called POT score,
Yeah.
payment on time score.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's a huge change which is coming in a lot of organizations. And I mean, why not? Because today a lot of government has this ease of business, right? Single
Yes.
window clearing
Yeah.
system.
Yes.
Why not we have that on the transaction side of it?
True.
So it's a similar approach what we are adopting.
I think that just helps all kinds of businesses which are
Yes.
attached to one large business,
Correct.
to move smoothly, function. Because see, it's end of the day funds, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Smaller the business, the impact of funds moving in is even more important.
Yes.
And if this can happen, I think it's wonderful, and you are enabling that in the way you are.
Because today visibility is everything, right?
Yeah.
Right? We talk about a lot of things, but if you ask the one thing which is really required for a CFO, if I want to rhyme it, it is visibility and diligence.
Right.
Right? Everything else is going to be a byproduct or subsequent priorities for him. So enterprises, if you want to stay ahead of the competition, there are so many challenges. They want to progress. They have to have the compliances right, which is the
Yeah.
diligence, as well as they want to have the visibility. Right?
True.
So that can only happen when you have something, some product which inherits that value.
True. True. Wonderful. Now
In
that
fact, I think so
yeah.
CFO did raise that particular question, right? In the beginning, 2021, when we are talking about, will supplier adopt digital transformation?
Yeah.
That was a big question, and
True.
I mean, once we rolled out, within 6 months, 90% of the suppliers on board.
Okay.
So that kind of experience at a business level, because this gets exposed to senior management also.
Yeah.
Right.
So then it becomes much more easier.
So am I right in saying that you are not just impacting your customers, but you are impacting the industry as a whole, because you are getting all these stakeholders on a platform, right? And while it might look small at this point in time, but once these people start learning to come on a certain platform, their lives are changing, their processes are changing, their approach is changing. I think there's a much larger impact that's really happening.
100%. End of the day, the way you were doing business with suppliers. So, supplier, vendor, partner. These are three different terms, and every organization would have their own persona to it.
True.
Right? So, you can understand that, okay, you might have a concept of racism in business itself by using these different words. A lot of organizations now moving to a partner ecosystem. They're considering suppliers as their partners. So, the way you do business with your partners, it's very, very important. And today, do buyers have that kind of a platform which can enable them to, ease business with their partners? That would be, that's what they're looking at.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, a thought arises in my mind that if you are working with the best of the companies in India, the largest of the companies in India, when are you planning to move beyond India? Because what I understand, many of the geographies are fairly organized and
Yes.
they would adopt this particular platform much faster. Are you looking at moving beyond India?
Yeah, I think maybe I take an analogy of UPI, right? So if you want to build anything on high transaction volume, high complexity, India is the best place. So
True.
we have done the hard work. You know, we have tasted the early success in India. We have a good set of customers in India. We definitely want to go to the adjacent markets, which has the same, I would say, ideology in terms of tax, e-invoicing, GST reforms or tax reforms,
Sure.
etc. So that is our immediate, next frontier, I would say. In short, we want to replicate what we have done here in other parts of the
Sure. Have you guys explored already some geographies that you would say, okay, these are more closer to us where this can be replicated, or it's still a very early stage for you to?
I think we are deeply immersed in Indian market. I know somebody said, use this word, we have just scratched the surface, right? But having said that, we have a partner model. So we have few partners who are outside India. So we have started working on that. But primarily from a founder perspective, we have deeply engaged in Indian market.
Sure, sure.
And there is a concept also where when you build a product, people would say that okay, इंडिया में प्रोडक्ट बनाइए लेकिन इसको प्रॉफिटेबल बनाना है तो इसको बाहर लेके जाइए.
True.
Correct. Now this I think so even our investors are pretty amazed at that point because we have been profitable through and throughout.
Oh, wonderful.
So that's a basic business from a theory perspective, or you would say that application perspective, that we have always ensured that SaaS or investor coming on board doesn't mean that you splurge money.
True.
It needs to be more realistic based on the business requirements.
I think it's like each market has its own
Yeah.
characteristics. So India might be slow, but it gives you stability. US gives you accelerity. So we want to have a right balance in that. But we want, as I told you, finance and complex transactions. It's better to do it in large scale, either India, China, etc.
Correct.
True. So you mentioned that you have a lot of your service providers or vendors on your platform. You are in an industry which is largely unorganized, is moving towards being organized. How do you kind of get them on board? What are the challenges that you face? Because these are difficult people, different personalities. What are the dynamics that play around?
See, primarily, okay, today we have almost 1 lakh plus suppliers on board, right? Platform is handling 5,000 crores plus monthly transactions, out of which 90% is coming through supplier itself, by using the supplier portal as a pivot. On the supplier side, we divide majorly supplier into 3 different categories. One, which are monopolized, so they will say that okay, I will not come onto your portal and not do anything. Second, medium category, where they will do because number of transactions are low, monthly maybe 1 or 2 transactions, 3 transactions, but a regular transaction. And then last category is where you have subcontractor ecosystem. They don't know how to operate computer. Right. Now in all these 3 categories, if you look at the first category where we say monopolized, we came up with a inclusivity approach where we released our APIs, where they are using the IT technologies at their end and their ERPs are directly interacting at a system level rather than a manual. But at the same time, even at that side, they have different sales guys, right? They have their targets, they have their collections, all those things, they have their logins. So at least they're coming onto the portal. They're not uploading the transactions there, but they are coming onto the portal to track payment on time, what is pending, what is not pending. In fact, all the queries which are going to the buyer is now handled through the supplier portal itself.
Okay.
So that is something which is very interesting. And the last category, lot of our customers have actually set up a kiosk kind of a system there. Because anyway, this guy is going onto your plant location or onto your premises to submit the invoice, right? Now these kiosks are helping these suppliers that how they can log in, how they can upload the invoices, and they are helping right then and there. So that is something I think so which is making more and more better for them, because especially for the subcontractor ecosystem, it becomes very, very difficult because they are on a cash flow on a month-on-month basis. Right? Even if one invoice remains in my drawer for 30 days, next day you will have a union knocking your door. So from that perspective, I think so we managed it very well, more from, I would say that, as I said, adaptable. So not only that, okay, you can come onto the portal and transact yourself, but at the same time, can I do that technically? Can I do that operationally? So that combination of all these three things will only, help.
And the government really helped us, because if you look at MSME payments, you can't keep it more than 15 days, 45 days, etc. So there is a certain push to be required for adoption also. The timing is just right? So you have the push, but you have a product which makes things easier. When you amalgamate both of things, you have adoption.
Correct.
Fantastic. So, was your thought, did it just coincide with the government initiatives, or you already had that, okay, let's align with this and build ourselves? Was that ever a thought?
I think it just happened. I can tell you a lot many things, but it's just that.
No, we were doing it. So it's not that as I said, that we were working on silos at that point in time, some modules. But in 2020, as soon as we thought of combining all these features, because end of the day we are looking at something which is replicatable. Same practices I should be able to give to multiple organizations. Even though I know that, okay, two different organizations, same vertical, they will have different SOPs. They won't follow this. Here you will have 3 approvals, here you will have 2 approvals. So those kind of SOPs will be different, but can I avoid a consulting approach by showing that, okay, this is ready to deploy? That's where
I think it's speed, That's what we stand, speed and sharpness in terms of how we can implement this.
Now, we started with 90 days implementation and we reduced it to 15 days. Can you imagine that?
Wonderful.
That is something which was super. CFOs were really excited.
Okay. And you mentioned 2020. You started around 2018. And 2020 COVID just hit. What happened then? How was your experience with COVID? You were just a baby then, right?
I think actually, we were just baby, and the best thing to do is keep your expectations low. So, I think what has happened, if you look at now and then, is that we were just going to start. We were just building the product, we were doing the prototyping and stuff like that, and we had nothing in our mind in terms of expectations. So when COVID happened, we thought maybe we have to pivot something. That's honest. We thought, because enterprise customers require a lot of visits. A lot of travel, etc. And how do you sell an enterprise of that too on finance, where that too on payment, right? But what happened actually is that we grew our business during COVID.
Okay.
Because digital workforce made sure that
they required.
So there is no drawers, there is no chaos, nothing, right? It has to be everything on digital channel, and over the top the GST compliances and stuff. So it was easy for us to go there from a timing, as I told you. And then
in fact, it was a boost. Because
people
at some point, suppliers and buyers were doing a face-to-face transactions. They were physically doing transactions. Suddenly, they were forced to do remote transactions.
True.
Businesses are going on. It's not that during COVID, businesses stopped. Businesses were working, everything was going on. But yes, there was no physical interaction anymore.
True.
And I think so, because of that only, till today, most of our customers, 90% of the customers, we know them through video calls.
Okay.
Can you imagine that? And conglomerates, big conglomerates, they don't meet us. Online meetings, he will do online sales, I will do online implementation.
Okay.
That's how we do it.
We call it basically a high touch to a low touch model, right? So earlier it was a high touch, and during this transformation, we also transformed.
True. Is it fair to say that in the hindsight, there are a lot of positive things that worked in your favor, which made this thing a little more easier for you to kind of build? Because if some of these things wouldn't have played out, the struggle would have been much more than what you actually had. But it also means, and you said that you had a boost during COVID. How did you ramp up, say, approaching your clients and your backend? Because maybe even you didn't expect the way it would have grown, right?
So in terms of the backend, I think so we were already prepared from that side of it. As I said that, okay, we were working on a 90-day implementation to a 2 weeks implementation. So we were already, working on the efficiency side of it from the backend side of it. So that is something which we were ready. The only thing which, helped us is in terms of the sales cycle, convincing the customer, that kind of, paced up, which used to take 3 months. Now, 2 meetings and, he's on board.
Right.
Because he knew that, okay, this is something which he would require. So that is something which worked for us.
And if I have to look at the roadmap for Nimble going forward, how would you put that across?
I think to be put in simple, we want to power the entire supplier transactions on our platform. When I say that, whatever the suppliers are currently doing, we have to bring that on to Nimble. So whether it be the contract side of it, whether it be the compliance side of it, whether it be the payment, invoicing, all the relationships which is towards the supplier, we are building different modules. Currently we have 3 modules. We will scale it up to 7 modules in the coming few quarters. And that's one of the roadmap from a product perspective. We have already mentioned the scalability in terms of how we want to do it. Some very impactful use cases on deep tech, which is very meaningful. We want to invite that in the product. We're already working on the prototype. And on the business side of it, we want to establish, the growth story or continue the growth story we have in the Indian market, and also explore through partners for the international market. So that's broadly the roadmap we have.
Wonderful.
So at the same time, I'll just add on one more point. Currently, suppliers are transacting based on the existing arrangements with the buyer.
Okay.
We want to also build in a revenue generation persona there.
Right.
Where if Nimble S2P can give them business with other buyers, that is something where we want to.
Wonderful. So I think 2 conclusions for me. Artificial intelligence, yes, but genuine intelligence works more than anything else.
Perfect. That is the mantra now.
Absolutely. And
I hope you don't get trolled for this.
I hope not too. and
AI versus GI.
Yeah. And SaaS is not dead.
Yes.
Kicking alive and kicking.
Yeah. Wonderful. It was great speaking to you, Arun.
Thank you.
Great speaking to you, Chandresh.
Thank you.
Thank you.